The 2024 Champions opening match was a rematch between both Masters winners Sentinels and Gen.G, but let me tell you, it isn't looking good for Sentinels so far. In this video, we're going to go over some important tactical blunders from Sentinels on both maps and explain why Gen.G has generally maintained their world-class form, while Sentinels have forgotten some important lessons they already learned from earlier this year.
Like, we're playing our attack like defense, and then we're playing our defense not like defense, like
Starting with map 1 on Haven, I've seen a couple people talk about the fact that Sentinels were not contesting A main enough on attack. Although this could be true in some rounds, there were very clear attempts by them to make Gen.G scared of A main. In round 1, they used the Cypher Cage to cross and throw a cam deep into short. This denies valuable info from Gen.G, but it also smoothly transitions into a full team execute. Sentinels really did their research because Gen.G ran their same defensive setup last time they played Haven, and DRX at the time were able to abuse the setup in the same way. Sentinels run with the same idea, and it earns them a good position to win the round, even though they end up throwing the 1v3. In round 6, Sentinels committed hard to fighting for long control, which gave them 2 opening kills on A. In round 7, we saw TenZ find an opening kill with the Cage Teleport combo. And in round 8, they also attempted to fight for A main even though they lost first blood. Even in the rounds where Sentinels don't explicitly go A, they're making sure to throw the brick smoke to deny information, which forces Skye to use all her utility just to clear A main. Deciding to give up A main in these rounds isn't inherently bad, but it's what they're doing in response that's the issue. Sentinels are just way too slow in accomplishing anything on their defaults. They need to use the time that Gen.G are still concerned about A main to accomplish something else. By the time Gen.G have cleared A main and rotated one player off, Sentinels are still taking their time slowly creeping up mid. There are only 50 seconds left in this round when Sentinels finally probe into Garage and Gen.G are stacked towards that side prepared for it. The unfortunate part is that this is a lesson Sentinels have already learned and conquered. Back at Masters Madrid, Sentinels were doing something similar on their attack sides during the grand final. They were way too worried about holding aggressive pushes from Gen.G and never managed to accomplish anything on their own before time started to run low. This is exactly why they had this famous talk about getting more aggressive before they turned around the series and won. But now the same thing is happening again at Champs. In round 12, Sentinels are actually maintaining A main control, but sit around holding like they're scared of late pushes or trap plays. Keep in mind that it's Sentinels who have the aggressive double initiator comp, while Gen.G are working with a solo initiator and it's Skye. Gen.G have 4 stacked on A, but Sentinels are again not really accomplishing anything on the map to punish them for this read. With 40 seconds left in the round, JonQT finally breaks the turret in Garage, and now Gen.G are forced to respond, but all they have to do is pop their Omen ult into A main for info, and see that Sentinels are still waiting around. There's barely any time left in the round for Sentinels to rotate C, so they have no choice but to go straight into the stack and lose. You just can't expect to win attack sides without strong defaults involving challenging enemy territory. Only then can you force defenders to actually respond, which will create openings for your team to take advantage of. This peek through the smoke looks awful from JonQT, but he was able to make it work because of his team's pressure in Garage, which pulled Omen's attention away. Sentinels actually ended up winning this round I was talking about earlier, even though they lost the fight in Garage, because they challenged defender territory as a team. When they swapped sides at the half, it's actually Gen.G who demonstrated how to do this perfectly on their attack side. On their pistol round, we see them challenge B within the first 20 seconds of the round and break the trip. Sentinels have already started moving, but tapping the bomb creates even more incentive for Sentinels to rotate. Now Gen.G immediately transitions into a C split through Garage, but Meteor gets caught by the cam stun trap in C long. However, this pressure opens up a timing for Munchkin to sneak up A and find the backstab on JonQT to take full control of the site. Now the craziest part is that Gen.G were able to accomplish all these things with about 1 minute still left in the round, while Sentinels in the same time frame would have barely made it to Garage doors. This is the stark difference in their attack sides right now, because Gen.G do not care about where Sentinels have their trap laid or anything like that. All they care about is getting the control that they want. Here's another good example in round 16. Gen.G take full control of Garage and kill the Trip and Cam on C within the first 25 seconds of the round. This already gets Sentinels a little bit worried because they lost all of Garage, but then Gen.G pressures C even harder with a double flash. Now Gen.G have Sentinels' full attention towards C, which allows Munchkin to find another timing while TenZ is trying to smoke for them. People have been calling these fakes, but the best part about these fakes is that they're not actually fakes. If Gen.G happen to win a fight on B, they're probably just gonna plant on B. And if they killed somebody in Garage or C, they'd probably just plant on C and play the late flank from A for the post plant. This is a true default, which involves challenging defensive control, which could lead to team fights, but also just creates multiple opportunities for everyone across the map. Again, absolutely everything in this round was accomplished before the 1 minute mark, and I'll just remind you one more time that Sentinels weren't even breaking the Killjoy turret in Garage in the same time frame. Sentinels stayed in their own heads on defense as they're continuously trying to read what Gen.G are doing and gambling traps around that, rather than just taking the space and info they want and making their own setup adjustments from that. Technically, both of these goals can be achieved at the same time, but we'll discuss more on that in the next map. From this point on until the end of Haven, Sentinels continue to look very stale on defense, and we're now seeing a clear skill gap between the two teams. When we move on to Ascent, you can tell that Sentinels attempted to address their defense sides immediately, but didn't really understand the core issue behind it. In the first round, we see an immediate double peek from Cat, which gets shut down pretty quickly. Obviously, Sentinels are trying to be a bit more aggressive, but now it just feels like it's for the sake of doing so and not backed by a good plan. With Deadlock and Cypher in the comp, it's a bit meaningless to be fighting so early in the round before their utility can get any value. For example, if Deadlock walled B main early, everyone could have gone mid together and looked for a late round fight. Let me explain this further by looking at round 3. Watch how Sentinels can naturally gain value out of their comp, as Gen.G are forced to play a much slower default to whittle down their utility. Their Sova starts in A main and is able to break a trip there. Then he's able to rotate all the way to B main to break trips on both sides of the map. Gen.G also have a group creeping up mid and have already moved past arches. They're able to accomplish all of this map pressure before Sentinels move a single time in their setup. This results in Gen.G squeezing Sentinels off the map again and running a B split. Sentinels were completely committed to their trap in A main as their primary play, but this could have been a great example of a round where Sentinels can look for a late fight in mid to disrupt Gen.G's B split. Sentinels can still look for their trap in A main early on in the round, but if Gen.G don't happen to be there, they can just throw the wall and look for a fight in mid instead. This type of defensive setup is just a more proactive approach, which plays on the evolving information throughout different points in a round, rather than gambling on certain traps. The unfortunate part is that Sentinels used to play this way. In their match against NRG on Sunset, Sentinels loved to run a bunch of variations of this concept, where they would look for the immediate trap in A main, take control of it for info, and then quickly move towards mid and look for a fight there. But now at Champs, their defense sides look much more stale than before. And we know it's not a comp issue because we saw them do this on Haven as well when they had double initiators. In round 8, Sentinels are running a setup to counter the KO ult by triple stacking B and putting Deadlock utility on A. This is a great setup to start in, but their initial setups were never the problem in this series. They're able to find an opportunity onto Killjoy in B main, but for the next 20 seconds, Sentinels just sit around statically, while Gen.G are free to regroup and set up for an A split. Again, Sentinels aren't making any adjustments based on what they're seeing, and Gen.G are able to circumvent most of the danger from the Deadlock utility because they mainly flood through Cat. Sentinels could have thrown the Deadlock wall in B main after the Killjoy escaped and then adjusted their setup to slightly lean back towards A while it was up. This could have made a massive difference in this round because those B rotators almost made it in time to help TenZ on A. In comparison, let's look at Gen.G's defense in round 15. Gen.G start in a 2-1-2 defensive setup, with both sides looking for some type of information. They flash peek through the A main smoke to get info that there's a decently sized group outside of A. Simultaneously, they Sova dart outside of B, which gives Texture the green light to stack towards A, and for both Sova and Killjoy to take some control of B main, knowing that's probably Sentinel's weak side for this round. When Sentinels cut noise, Texture eventually resets his position towards mid. Sentinels call a really cool play by pretending they're faking A with Sassy solo droning sight. You can see that JonQT explicitly dodges the knife to trick Gen.G here. Then, they suddenly break the alarm bot towards market, which properly tricks Gen.G, causing Texture to stay in defender spawn rather than rotating towards A. But Sentinels had always planned to go A and have created a decent opportunity to split from Cat. In the end, Gen.G are basically in the same setup they started in, just like Sentinels, but the difference is that Gen.G accomplished way more throughout the course of the round. They took a challenge in A main, used that info to push B, ended up breaking the trip, and above all, Gen.G are seeing more of how Sentinels were setting up and moving around the map, which can tell them exactly how to adjust for future rounds. Here are some examples of what I mean. In round 13, Gen.G aggressively push mid but don't end up catching anyone. However, Texture spots the Cypher cam placed above tiles. Even though Gen.G lost their pistol, Texture can use this information to try and preemptively break the cam in the future, like he attempts to do in round 16 but fails. We just saw Lakia push and kill the trip outside of B main, so now in future rounds he's able to shock that same spot and break it for free. But beyond the utility placements, Gen.G can adjust their theory on how to play the map. In this round, we know that Gen.G were able to push B in response to losing A main control, but you can tell they didn't like that trade-off against how Sentinels were playing, because starting from the next round, Gen.G were adamant on fighting and maintaining control of A main throughout the course of a round. In both maps, Sentinels weren't proactive enough to even see how Gen.G were working around the map, so there's no way they can even make the right reads and adjustments for future rounds. The good part for Sentinels is that they've already learned both these lessons in the past and have already shown that they know how to play better. I think it's entirely possible that they fix their gameplay in time to make it out of groups, but we'll just have to wait and see how they do. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.